Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our Facebook Live alumni question and answer opportunity here at Conserve School in Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin. My name is Stefan Anderson. I'm fortunate enough to be the head of school here at Conserve School, and I'm joined with 4 of our wonderful alums who have come together this weekend for our Winter Alumni Weekend. And I'd like to start off by giving each of them an opportunity to introduce themselves, to let you know when they were here at Conserve School, what they did after Conserve School in terms of college, and if they're done with college, what they're doing now. So Connor, would you like to go first? Then you can pass the baton.
Yeah, sounds good to me. My name is Connor LeCure. I was here in spring of 2013 with the CS6 semester. And after I graduated from here, I went to Moore Park College back in Southern California, where I'm originally from. Excuse me. And I got my associates in science and film, TV, and multimedia with electrical and broadcast engineering. And I just finished up my degree at Cal State Channel Islands with photography. And now I'm in between seasons at the National Park Service.
My name is Olivia Stransky. I was with CS5 in the fall semester. Currently, I'm still studying at UW-Stevens Point for land use planning and GIS.
I'm Taylon Keith Rafferty. I was also in CS5 with Olivia, and actually after Olivia and I finished high school, we both did a Rotary International Youth Exchange in Thailand. And then after that, I went to Kenyon College. I still go there now. I have one more semester, and I'm an American Studies major, and Kenyon is in Ohio.
All right, I'm Paul Karpinski. I was here during CS3. I went to Northland College and I studied natural resources with an emphasis in ecological restoration as well as environmental geoscience. And now I work here at Conserve School as a teaching fellow.
Thank you. And I believe we have some questions that have come in from the live people.
We do.
And just so people know, our assistant Kate, who works in communications, will be asking us the questions.
Thank you, Stefan. We have our first question actually from a current teacher here. Jeff Renicky would like to know, how did Conserve School prepare you to be a leader in your sending school or your community? So whoever would want to answer that can answer it at any time, and not everybody has to answer the same question. So
I can answer. Well, thank you, Jeff, for tuning in and asking the question. The way that Conserve had prepared me for the way I help lead everyone is Conserve gave me the independence, excuse me, gave me the independence and the ability to be able to develop my skills and help realize who I am. And I'm able to use that skill to help project myself and help lead a group of people, no matter whether or not I'm doing a tour at the National Park Service, or if I'm leading a photography group, or if I'm just helping people out in general.
thank you.
Somebody else want to take that question? Or? Okay.
Okay. Well, another great question from Jeff is, what is the best book you've read since leaving Conserve School? Anybody think of a book?
There's a lot.
Jeff is going to be disappointed to hear that I'm more into movies than I am into books.
I'm not really about the best kind of hierarchy here, but I'll say that a book that I read recently for a class at Kenyon was called The Last Report on the Miracles at Little No Horse by Louis Erdrich. And yeah, that was a really incredible book about, well, of course I'm gonna just butcher it now, but it's just like about like the Ojibwe people and just some like really incredible like cultural like fiction about this like family, and she has this whole series that follows through about like the trauma and also just like about the resilience of these different people within these communities. So.
Well, that leads me to sort of a follow-up question from that. Did you enjoy what you learned about local native cultures while you were here at Conserve School and sort of, you know, the stewards of the land from before we were here?
So I think that at least in CS5, from what I remember, was that well, Conserve, I think, has implemented a lot more of Native studies since our semester. I don't really remember learning a whole lot. Do you remember?
No, I think that there's been some very big changes since then, so I don't think any of you were really in a time when we really spent as much effort as we do now, or as we're as connected to the cycles as we are now. Maybe, Paul, you could comment on what you've observed as a teaching fellow, more recently.
Oh yeah. From what I remember,
Or like
these
what
past-
you've even from the past year, yeah.
Oh yeah, from the past year, we've had Jerry Jondro come and speak. I didn't actually go to those, so.
Okay.
But we have had guest speakers from the Ojibwe tribes here come and speak. Again, specifically, I don't know what, but.
Another, and we've woven that into our maple syruping and also into our work with wild ricing and a lot of different things there. So maybe another question.
Yes. So we're going to switch it up a little bit. What did you go on to do for your college major or travel or work or just post-Conserve School that you feel that was maybe somewhat inspired by your time here?
I could start us off with that. I went to Northern College in Ashland, Wisconsin, and there I got involved with quite a few things. I got involved with the composting initiative on campus, got a job as compost crew co-manager. I also got involved with our outdoor orientation program, which is taking freshmen out on 5-day backpacking, canoeing, or sailing trips, similar to Exploration Week here. And then I majored in natural resources as well as geology, all stemming from my experience here at Conserve School.
So part of my choice and decision making for college was actually from then they were called graduate fellows, so they were helped with residential life, but they were also completing their graduate's degree from UW-Stevens Point, so that kind of helped me choose UW-Stevens Point because they did have a strong natural resource program and the college had really good professors, and I've really enjoyed my time there so far. I have 1 semester left, but and then in terms of just stepping outside my comfort zone, Conserve School was the first place that I really took a leap outside of my normal circle back in Minnesota. So after Conserve, Talon mentioned it before, but we both did the Rotary Youth Exchange program, and we both went to Thailand, which I don't think was our first choice, but we went there anyways, and we had a great time, so yeah.
Yeah, I'd say very similar to that too. I had not visited Conserve before I came here, so I just showed up with Katie Wetberg, and we were like, well, here we go. And so I think Rotary was very similar. It was like, I'd never left the country before doing that, so I really felt, because this was obviously such a successful experience for me, that I could just pretty much, after I researched a program well enough, that I could just do it. And so another thing was in the spring, I went abroad. I did Sea semester with Sea Education Association, SEA, and I did a program called Colonization to Conservation in the Caribbean. And so in this program, you spend 6 weeks in Woods Hole and then 6 weeks on a tall ship, a 134-foot brigantine. I'd never sailed before, and that was totally fine. Like, you just learn how, and then I stayed on after my program for 2 weeks as a deckhand. And it's just like, again, this experience, like, if it hadn't been for, I guess really, like, first of all, taking the leap to come here, and then obviously the skills of just like the confidence the school has like instilled in all of us, like to pursue our dreams, or just really take a chance on something that sounds like very radically different from what people around you are doing. It's like, it's going to really work out and pay off in a big way.
I'll answer that last. So with me, I found a lot of confidence and a lot more love for the outdoors for me. So what I did was, even though I did an art degree and I have a science degree, what I've done with that is, especially with my art degree now, I have taken that and I'm using the stewardship to use my professional photography and help promote the outdoors, help promote the National Park Service, and help promote a healthy environment, healthier living, and trying to just be more green and trying to promote environmental stewardship. And then in addition with that, Conserve School also helped me give the confidence for doing the National Park Service and leading all the tours, helping with everyone, doing the visitor and resource protection. So really awesome.
I think one of the questions that applicants to Conserve School often have is, how does this experience impact your college application process? You know, what kind of questions did you get from college counselors or people that were in the admissions office? And do you think it helped you in getting to the college of your choice? Or, you know, just how did that play out for you, if anybody had any experience that way?
I'll start this one off.
Sure.
For me, a lot of the colleges I went to didn't ask so much about my high school experience because I started in the community college system and then I went into the California state system, which are both state-run schools. So for me, it was more like get in really easy to the community college, get a good enough grade in the community college, and then I was able to transfer into the higher education. But I'm still extremely proud of coming here, and I'm hoping that one day it helps me somewhere with a job as well. Who wants to answer next? Sure.
So for me, going to UW-Stevens Point, they did ask what type of extracurriculars and what type of things outside of just going to class every day that you participated in. And a big one for me, I think, and for them looking at the applications, was the fact that in Conserve, you're putting yourself into a community and you're invested in all different aspects, not just going to class every day, you know? So when you go to college, they want you to be someone that's going to be a student, but also involved in res life and involved in extracurriculars. So I think it's a very big, strong point for you to be able to come to Conserve, say you did this and participated in it, and then take that and move it into a different school.
So we're going to move on. We have a question coming in, and this is an important question for parents. They want to know if you faced any academic difficulties returning back to your sending school after being here for a semester. Like, how was that transition? And was there any time lost in any of your graduation requirements?
For me personally, I graduated on time. I graduated in 2014, and my sending school worked well with me, but I was upfront with them before I came here and talked to my guidance counselor and made sure that everything that I did at Conserve would be able to be put right back into the curriculum at my high school. And I don't think anything was lost. I mean, I had a renewed sense of wanting to learn the material when I came back, so I think that was a positive to my school rather than a negative, but that was just my experience.
You go next again and we'll pass it around. For me, I didn't have any issue going back into normal education because a lot of the classes that are taught here, like the science classes, English classes, history, everything translated back into the normal class. And for me, it was more of a bummer going back into normal school because this school is just so amazing that nothing I've done so far even comes close to my experiences here.
Yeah, so I was the first person from my high school to come to Conserve School, and when I went to my counselor, they had no idea what this was or what this program was or what it would look like going away and coming back. But we managed to work through it, came here, had my classes, and the transition back was seamless. So, yeah.
Yeah, I graduated on time, and pretty much I would just be saying the same thing as everyone else.
Yeah.
But the
Okay,
one
that's
thing I
fine
will
to
say
say,
is
yeah.
that the math program, at least when I was here, was like not ideal. It was like didn't really quite work out as well. Luckily for me, I had like fulfilled a lot of my math requirements ahead of time, so I just came back and like didn't have to take the second semester of math. But if I had wanted to continue, it could have posed a problem because of just how the online system was set up at the time. But I don't know, I would be interested to hear how that's changed since. Or
Yeah, let me just say a few things about that. It's changed, I think, in multiple ways, but one of the things is that the program we work with is called Alums, has greatly improved over the years.
Okay.
In addition, we've added a teaching fellow in mathematics, so we actually have two full-time instructors in the classroom throughout the time, and we're much better now at individualizing the program to the student. And it's not all online. Much of it is delivered by that teacher working with you, one of the teachers working with you one-on-one. And then also with having a teaching fellow, it allows another person to be available during the evening study hours to help support, so it's not just one night that way.
So I'm going to move on to one of Ken's questions. And he was wondering what, like, out-of-class activities did you take something important from that you would like other people to know about? Like, what other things other than just academics do you feel has inspired you and that you would like to tell others about?
One thing I really loved was when we would do those stewardship days and learn all of these different skills outside of class. I remember doing woodworking and like beekeeping. And so now I work on a student-run farm at the Kenyon Farm, and I mean, I'd say that just having like a door into that experience, well, I wouldn't say that I became particularly like an expert at these things while here, but it was still just like, again, this opportunity to do woodworking or doing different things. It's like now I would love to go on and like learn how to like build tiny houses and things like that. But, and I think that, again, it's almost like opening the door to all of so many different skills and activities. Because you could pick the different stewardship programs to do each week, it was a really wonderful opportunity to try different things.
So outside of class, I mean, when we got done with our days, we would come back to our residence halls and basically just ask everyone, meet in the middle of the room and say, what do we want to do tonight? And I think that was important, just relationship building, but it also gave us the chance to really develop our passions, kind of, because I had no idea that I loved canoeing as much as I did. I had no idea that I needed time to just be alone in nature, you know, and just be myself and take time to think and not have to worry about classes and people and what's coming next, but just really take in the surroundings.
Answer next. For me, one of the big things was taking it slower and taking more time to enjoy the outdoors. And for me, I've translated that now into my professional photography because I'm able to take my time, take it very slow, and find something naturally very beautiful, and then be able to spend the time to photograph and not worry about rushing back to the busy city or rushing back to do something I don't want, because I know that that time outside is well spent for me.
So this is sort of more directed at Paul and maybe Stefan too. If you know what Conserve School is like now versus when you were maybe a student here, how has Conserve sort of changed or progressed since?
You know, that's hard to say from the student perspective. I was a student, of course, but how that has changed in the student's eye, that's kind of hard to say. I think there's a lot of good things that have developed since I was a student here, but there's also a lot of the same patterns with community formation and adjourning at the end of the semester that have remained true throughout all of the semesters. But also let Stefan speak to that as well.
Well, I think one of the great semester program and a semester school is that we don't have to wait till the next year to kind of make changes. So we learn a lot from the students each semester, and so we try and just keep folding all of that stuff that we've learned back in. Someone mentioned earlier that we had the Graduate Fellow Program, which was a good program, but there were some rough edges to it. So now it's developed into the Teaching Fellow Program, which we find is meeting the needs of the students a lot better than the Graduate Fellow Program was. Talon mentioned some issues with the math program, you know, so we've kind of fine-tuned that a little bit. One of the things that we've done is we try to develop a sense of place. That's always been sort of a central theme here at Conserve School, but over the last 3 years we've really realized that we can't develop a sense of place here without really connecting and bringing in those people that were here before us. So our work with the indigenous community up here in the North Woods as well. Additionally, I'm very excited that we've increased our effort to increase the diversity of students that we have here at Conserve School. We by no means are where we want to be, but we recognize that, and maybe Connor's seen it in his work in the Park Service, that the background of the people using the parks it does not represent the background of the people in this country. And so if we want to protect the parks, we need to make sure that people from all backgrounds and ways of life are interested in and have the same love that we have. So we have some great summer programs that are coming up online to help with that as well. So it's hard to point to any one specific thing. And we're also very careful. Sometimes we change things and, it didn't work, so we go back. Another thing that I think is really important is that last year there was a number of concerns from some students and alums about just how jarring this experience can be, to be away from home for 17 weeks and not have all those supports. And then additionally, the 15 to 17-year-old age range is a time when a lot of things can kind of come to the surface, and whether we were appropriately offering students the support they needed both social and emotionally, or even giving our teaching fellows and other staff members enough training to help deal with those issues. So that's an example of an area where we listened. We now have a school counselor who works with us, and all of our student program staff get mental health first aid training, which is a great program, and I think that every school should require that of their staff as well. So whether it be things like that or the other, that's the thing. We just try to keep making it better.
Great. So all of you came from different semesters, right? No?
We were the same.
You were in the okay. We have a question about what are the pros and cons of the different semesters. So what I'm
Fall or
guessing they mean
spring.
fall versus spring. So if anyone can speak to that, did anybody have any I wish I had been in fall, I wish I had been in spring, or what are the pros and cons?
Talk to spring. So I'm from the spring 2013 semester, and for me, a pro that I'm really happy with and that I'm really proud of is that we were able to all get together as a community. We got together, we always had fun with each other, and we wrapped up the whole semester with our exploration week, where everyone goes out in different groups of 7 to 10-ish, and we go out canoeing or backpacking for about a week or so at the very end of the semester. So for me, it felt very powerful that I had known a lot of people at the very end, and it just made us feel closer. One of the cons was our winter lasted longer than our winter should have. So, but that's give or take depending on the year. Mm-hmm. But I heard CS5 didn't have much of a winter. So
Talon and I were both in CS5, which is in the fall. And I think we'd probably both agree that we really enjoyed the fact that we did it in the fall, just because coming up here right away, we had the opportunity to try all of the fall non-winter sports, and we got to do as much as we could. One of the downsides was that we didn't get to do as many winter sports, but I really enjoyed the fact that we started out biking after class and meeting up with everyone, and we had our exploration week in the beginning of the semester, which I think was a pro for us just because it brought us close with a group of people that we hadn't necessarily been, not that we weren't friends, but we hadn't been as close with as people in our wings and in our house. So I think I really liked fall. But
Paul, since you've now been here as a teaching fellow for both spring and fall, do you have any thoughts about that?
I think it's always a good time to come here.
It's a good time all the time.
It's a good time all the time. When I was a student, I was here in the fall. I think the benefits of that is you kind of get the tail end of summer and fall and winter. And depending on the year, if you come in the spring, you might just get winter. But I don't think either way should deter you. I think looking back on it, one of the big factors was, oddly enough, sports. I was a track and field person, so I came in the fall so I could have my track and field season. But after the experience and after working here, I don't think you playing sports should really play a factor, because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity that I think you should take no matter what. I would have skipped. Looking back on it, I totally would have skipped a season to be here.
And then I'll just say, for anyone who's watching this and thinking, oh, I don't know about the spring. I know I didn't do spring, but I'll say that just the experience here, if you're worried about coming to northern Wisconsin in the winter, Conserve School really taught me how to love winter. Like, it was just, and I grew up in southeastern Wisconsin, so it's not like it's foreign to me, but I didn't realize all of the things that you can do, or like how to experience different seasons that maybe are less familiar to you in just a whole new way, and a way to actually fall in love with it. So don't be deterred.
I think that, yeah, the winter can be a little daunting for some people, but it's like anything, you know, if you learn how to embrace it and the right tools, and our staff are really good at showing people how to do that, and so you can dress comfortably for it. I remember we had two wonderful young ladies who came from the U.S. Virgin Islands, and I think they got on the plane at about, 88 degrees, and they got off the plane here at about 8 degrees. And within 2 weeks, they were all over the place on skis and this, that, and the other thing. And I remember asking one of them at the end of the semester, you know, how hard that was. And they just said it was the best, you know, thing ever. They just embraced it. And I know that part of that was because they paid attention to the list of what to bring and the advice that they got from the staff.
Yeah, no bad weather, just bad clothing. So, all right. This is kind of a little bit longer of a question, multiple parts. What are your biggest takeaways from your time at Conserve School that impact the person that you are today? Like, are there personal communication skills, problem-solving skills, or other types of skills that you feel started or flourished because of Conserve School?
I could start it off again. So the parts of it was that what skills did I take away socially, and how it helped me develop as a person is roughly the question.
Sure.
Sure. So for me, a lot of the skills that I think I gained from being here was a lot of social skills, because the way that CS6 was laid out was we had the grad fellows, we had the students, and we had all the teachers. But a lot of the time we were doing our own thing, either outside of class or in class. We were going out skiing, we were just hanging out in the lobby, we all had class together. So a lot of the time we had to help discover who we were in essence, and we had to help each other figure out who each other were. And in addition, we also had to help fix everyone's problems, and not in a bad way. That sounded worse coming out. We had to more so, if there was a conflict that arose, we had to help resolve it. And because of that, here I'm able to help resolve bigger issues that come up. Like at the park service, if we have an issue with a visitor, I can help resolve it now. And then, what was the next part of the question?
Well, that's really it. It's just a problem-solving skills. You touched on that, or a skill that maybe started here that's become important to you. Yeah.
One of the skills for me is being able to interpret a subject and be able to present it back at someone. Because at the National Park Service, one of my jobs I do is I'm an interpretation ranger part-time. I do, among other things, but with interpretation I take, say, like the Paramount Ranch area, the park I worked at, and I'm able to read all the information about the history and the films and the cultural history. I'm able to help present that to new people who don't know much about that. I feel like I got those skills while I was here, or the start of it. There you go.
This is, I guess, maybe like a life change. Something that started here was one thing that we did, and this is just an example of this, but I think it's completely ingrained in Conserve School, is we had like phenology spots where we would go and like spend time in a place and really like take time to observe things. I feel like that skill of observation, of like taking a moment to like really look around you and like see how things are changing and be just in touch with nature in this case. But I think that this helped me be in touch with a lot of things, and that could even be like for me now, like in touch with people around me, or like kind of like taking a moment to like understand. So I work on a farm, and like a lot of it is like you walk through the fields, and if you're just running through and doing chores for the animals or things, like you might not notice little changes and little details that are important. And I think that for me, like that's one thing that I really feel like started here at Conserve, was just like taking the time and yeah, and then just like once you see something wrong, like actually fixing it. Because that was another important thing about, you know, living in a community, such a small community, is that it was like we always, I don't know, like we always had to take care of each other, you know, and take care of like anything. And it was like if something was wrong, I mean, like I don't even know. I just feel like some of the examples are so, it's so internal and so part of me now that it's almost hard to think about. But yeah.
So another question is, how have you connected with other people from other semesters besides your own? Have you? And in what ways have you seen people out in the world that are also Conserve School students that you connected with?
So UW Stevens Point kind of has a relationship. I mean, they had the grad fellows, but I mean, I can walk around campus with a Conserve sweatshirt and people will call me out, be like, hey, what semester were you? And then we have a conversation about it. And there's a previous classmate of ours, Jenna, who is also in CS5. We had the same major, and I see people a lot actually that were in different semesters, and we have a conversation about what they did, what their semester was known for, exploration week, that kind of thing. So it really gives you a community within a community, and you see people everywhere.
For me, I wish I had more people close to me, but I live in Southern California, so I'm pretty far away from Wisconsin, unfortunately, and really far away from a lot of my friends and a lot of the people from the other semester. But we do have a Facebook group with all the alumni from the school, or most of them are on there, and me and several of the people kind of help to admin the group, and we kind of help culture the group and help make sure that everything on there is friendly and everyone gets added, so it's really fun in that aspect. There you go.
Yeah, so Northland College, oh my gosh. So many people from Conserve transferred to Northland College, and apparently it's just always been that way. Again, I was CS3, so I've seen and gone to college with people from CS1 all the way up until CS8 or 9. And you pick them out of the crowd right away because they're probably wearing just, you know, their shirt with a little emblem, and you see their shirt semester or semester shirt, and you just instantly know that you and that person have a similar experience, and then it's really easy to start talking to that person. You start sharing stories, and I mean, everybody has a different experience, but you all kind of have the same experience as well. So it just kind of, it's this weird community sense, and it just kind of feels like a lot of people are part of the family. And through so many semesters, it's, I mean, almost 1,000 different students now. And so it's almost 1,000 people that I feel like I have a connection with, even if I've never met them before.
Yeah, let me just, we have actually 893 alums from the Conserve School semester program and 212 alums from the time that we were a four-year school, so that's quite a few. You've heard Paul mention Northland College. For those of you that don't know, Northland College is located in Ashland, Wisconsin, and it has a mission with many elements that are very similar to Conserve School, so it's a natural for many of our alums to select it. It's a very small school, and interestingly enough, for the last 6 years, over 5% of its students are Conserve School alums, so in a group of 20, you probably have one there. UW Stevens Point, the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, is Wisconsin's most environmental public university, and it's a wonderful place as well. And we have just about as many alums go there as go to Northland, but they're a same-size group of fish in a much larger pond, so not quite so often they get together. But we have students who go to colleges all over the country as well, you know, from Harvard to Stanford, to community colleges, to even St. Olaf College, my own alum area. So it's great. And I always love it from alums that maybe they were at a climate march in DC and they were marching down the street and then they saw another Conserve School person there. Or I open up the paper and I see a shot from a photographer of the crowd and I can pick out the Conserve School students. And I really love it when they're wearing their Conserve School wear as well, and they're featured prominently by accident in those photos.
So we're going to shift gears a little. someone would like to know, what was the most difficult part of your time at Conserve School? What was the most difficult thing for you here?
Leaving.
Yeah.
Leaving for sure.
How about beyond leaving?
But did anybody have homesickness at first when they first got here? Was that anything anyone? No? Just excitement?
For me, I did have like a little bit of trouble because in my home, like I'm very, very independent. Like my parents always kind of just let me do whatever I wanted. And so there were like a lot of like check-ins at Conserve, but because I know of like, for example, I think it was CS2 when there was a young woman who actually like had gotten lost in the woods like before there were all of these check-ins and things. I like realize how important it is that we do that, and that like nothing like that has happened since then because of the safety measures that Conserve takes now. But I do remember that that was a little bit of a like a shock to me, I guess, was just that it was like we just people checking in on me a lot. But I realized by the end or throughout the experience that it was really just people making sure that we were okay. I mean, it's like an incredible experience to have so much like beautiful like wilderness areas and nature around you to like experience and go do, but it is also so important to be safe and to be kept track of. And so that was, yeah, it was hard, but it was clearly important. So.
You want me to talk?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. So, besides for leaving, I didn't really have too many difficulties. I absolutely love it in northern Wisconsin. It's one of my favorite places to be, besides for being in the high Sierras. So for me, I didn't have any necessarily big issues. I think most of it was smaller things, like I think I forgot a coat or something like that. So just make sure that you pack all your clothes that it says on the list.
All right. So do you have any advice for incoming students? What kind of advice would you give a new student coming here?
Definitely keep an open mind, for this is not a traditional high school, and a lot of the classes are going to be structured significantly differently than a normal class. Like an example is in English class, you still do your readings and you still have to write papers. However, our English professor, Jeff, he will take you out into the wilderness and you'll read about the trees from John Muir while you're sitting under a tree in the snow, freezing your butt off. But, I like the cold, so I didn't mind too much. And then, like I just said, make sure you pack everything on the list and be prepared for good food as well. The food is amazing here. Who would like to go next?
So in terms of if you haven't necessarily made up your mind of whether or not you're going to come to Conserve, and it sounds like we're all just very adamant about the fact that it's amazing and we love it. It is, but it's also a life-changing experience, and it's not just us sitting up here preaching that to you. It's something that I think we all can agree that changed our lives and impacted our lives positively. But in terms of something that they should prepare themselves, I think it's important to recognize that you're going to be challenged on your education. And that was, coming to Conserve for the first time was something that I didn't really realize. Most of my high school experience was pretty easy. I would say I didn't really feel like I was challenged the most. And coming to Conserve, we weren't able to just hand in a sheet and say, this is our work. We had discussions and we debated, and we actually used critical thinking to prove why we thought something was the way it was. And I think that was a skill that I took away from it, but is something that's really important, and it's a huge asset to have now after Conserve.
My advice is definitely to say yes to things that might make you uncomfortable at first or things you haven't tried yet. I think maybe Olivia had mentioned earlier that, we didn't really have very much winter, or Connor did actually. We didn't have that much winter in ours. So actually just even this reunion, I I was like, I'm not good at skiing. I don't know if I want to do that. And then, of course, my friends were like, come on, Taylor. And then I did it, and I was like, clearly, wonderful experience. Like, you fall, that's fine. So say yes, but also sleep. Like, whoa, guys, go to bed sometimes. Like, you're going to think you have to be going all the time, but like you don't. And there's going to be this wonderful opportunity that after you finish Conserve to come back and visit. And it doesn't end. It doesn't end there. And then also, again, you've developed all these skills. You can go anywhere and do this. So say yes, but also take time for yourself and go to bed.
So, do any of you have a favorite spot in Lowenwood? You probably all had phonology spots, but do you have a spot that maybe your mind goes back to every now and then?
Yep.
Still.
By far, one of my favorite spots just happens to be my phonology spot because I chose that. It's in the northwest corner. It's called Inkpot Lake. And for me, Inkpot Lake was so far out that a lot of people didn't go there a lot of the time. And I just absolutely love taking the long ski, enjoying all the nature on the way there, and just looking out over the Inkpot Lake area. It's absolutely gorgeous. And as a bonus, we happened to spot the first open water this semester at Inkpot Lake. So I was very happy about that. So anytime I think of Conserve, I think of this building that we're in right now, this amazing fireplace, and then Inkpot Lake is the first thing that comes to mind.
I think for me was my solo spot, because spending time alone was something that I didn't do that much of at Conserve, but when I took my solo camping trip, I realized I just had this moment to really come to terms with, or just like take a moment to really reflect in just like silence or like in the quiet of nature. So I always think back to my solo spot, and every time I come back, I make a point to go.
Right here. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you answering all of those questions. And do you have any last minute things to say? Like, would you ever want to work at Conserve School? And if so, why?
All right, well, Haley works at Conserve, and I'm like, wow, I want that job. So, yeah, no, I think it'd be really incredible. It would be honestly an honor to work at Conserve, and I think that, yeah, or like anything. I mean, you work here, so you should say.
Yeah, so I would say yes. Yeah, so I have worked here for a year now, and I love it. I mean, it's an honor to be here and to help provide the experience that I had for a bunch of new students, incoming students. It's super rewarding, and yeah, I would highly recommend it.
And so you are a science teaching fellow. Have you always been a science teaching fellow?
Yes, I have. Yeah. So yeah, I get to use what I learned in college in my job, and also come back to an amazing place.
I would also say that I absolutely love to be back at Lowenwood and absolutely love to work back here at Conserve School. I love the Northwoods, I love the cold, I love the spring. It's just, I love everything about being out here. It's a lot different than the busy city of Los Angeles.
I would just echo what everyone else said. Yeah, it would be an honor to work here, and I would be proud to do it. I think being able to give, like Paul said, give the incoming students the same experience that we had when we were here is awesome.
Well, we are coming to the end of our time here today, but I want just to let people know about a few opportunities. If you come to our website, www.conserveschool.org, you'll find stories by alums. That's one of the things that we have there, and you can learn a lot about what they're doing out in the world. Even some of these alums have been featured in stories, and you also can see stories that were written by current students there and stories by staff. It's really a great way to get to know Conserve School better. I also want to let you know that we'll have more of these opportunities to do some Facebook Live question and answers coming up during the next semester. CS 18 students will take you on a tour of campus where you can ask questions while you're touring the campus. And we'll have some parents during Family Weekend in February that will be up here answering some questions for you as well. So please take advantage of those things. And last but not least, I encourage you to take a look at our YouTube channel, especially the talks that different students have given at the end of the semester. And just last week, the talks from the CS 17 students and their performances went live there as well. So check out Conserve School online, and we look forward to chatting with you in the future.